Hi, everybody, and welcome to Optimize Your AWS Fest. I'm your host, Jon Myer. And before we get started, I gave you all the housekeeping tips earlier, but don't forget to drop some of those gifts in there as well. Our speakers are joining us and they would like some of the information. We're here to talk about AWS reInvent 2022 and a recap of some of those optimization efforts and some of the releases. Were they wow or not? But we'll get started. From data analytics with Amazon QuickSight to DevOps release of Amazon Code Catalyst. But what about serverless with AWS Lambda SnapStart? Not to mention, we need to talk about sustainability because in 2021, AWS released a number of features around sustainability. Was that the case for 2022? We'll stick around and find out. Oh, there was also another feature release. It's called AWS Cleanroom. Wait, can my kids use this? Is this billed hourly? Because I'm not sure I can afford this. All right, let's talk about some of our speakers. And then, speaking of that, we have a returning guest speaker who's going to help me out with some of the commentary. And since all of our guests have opted for me to stick around in podcast style of a Q&A, yes, that's 3 hours straight of talking. Wait, don't go anywhere. Don't leave. I know. Listen to me talk for 3 hours straight. It's all about the speakers. You're going to listen to them talk a little bit. But our next guest is actually going to help me out with everything, including the closing remarks. Please join me in welcoming CTO, Cloud Transformation at T-Systems, and he's also known as a cloud therapist on YouTube. Let's bring on Richard Simon to the show. Richard, thanks for joining me, and we're going to give him a second to join.
Hey, guys. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. That's a traditional. Can we hear you, Richard? How's it going?
Hello, world. That's the other one. How are you, Jon?
Oh, I'm doing great. I love doing these optimize your AWS Fest with everybody. I love the interaction, the new system we're using, the comments, the questions, the thumbs up, all the emojis that are. I can't keep up with this. I need a fourth monitor for it. Richard, I'm going to get started. I'm going to let you do a quick introduction, and then I have a couple of questions around reInvent, and then I'd like you to do a quick opening.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad to be back on again. It's a real pleasure to be on. I think it's always great to do these sessions. So we're all about reInvent, a recap of reInvent today. So we've got a great set of not only speakers but prizes as well, Jon, I believe.
I didn't tell anybody.
Can I enter?
Can
I enter? I don't think I can enter though.
I'm sorry, you're ineligible to enter. But when I win one, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Richard, you talked about the prizes. Everybody, you got to stick around after every single speaker. You know what? Richard, I'm going to give everybody a rundown what's going to happen. All of our guest speakers have traditionally 15 minutes to talk, but since it's going to be me too, you're going to have 20 minutes. It's going to be a live Q&A afterwards. We're going to have a little magic with a well-known magician, Gideon, who is going to join us for some fun and awesome stuff. And yes, he's won an award. He's probably going to show off. And if he doesn't, it's in the back. Just look on the thing. All right, we're going to be wowed because he's always got some cool and awesome things to share and interact with the audience and our guests. Then afterwards, we got a raffle. We've got not one, but two Keurigs. Not one, but two Oculus. And at the end, we have a closing act with an Xbox.
Cool.
All right, so Richard, let me ask you a couple of questions. You weren't in person at reInvent, but no. I want to know your feedback. What did you think about this reInvent?
I watched quite a lot of the session. I mean, there's just so many to do. It's not, we're not going to be able to do justice. But I thought I really enjoyed it. The thing for me that kind of struck me with it is that some folks might be sort of familiar with the Intel strategy for releases. So they kind of had this thing called a tick-tock release strategy for their processes and technology. So kind of the tick is kind of around reduction in the chip size, and the TOC is around kind of more a design change or an architectural change. And I'm kind of getting the feeling, and feel free for if people kind of disagree with that or have their own take on it, whatever, they'll love to hear from you. But I'm kind of getting the feeling the AWS reInvent sort of events are almost kind of doing the same thing. So I would have probably say that this was kind of the sort of similar approach really to kind of how the sort of the tick-tock sort of process works for Intel. So for this year, I would say it was a tick year for for AWS reInvent. It's kind of more around improvements than necessarily new announcements. But that's fine. I mean, that's kind of how it works sometimes. And you kind of you release something last year and you kind of want to improve on it this year and add more to it. So that's kind of the impression I got. But I'd love to hear what people thought about it, and kind of favorite sessions and things like that. I think we'll probably dive into a little bit more of that later on as well, Jon.
Richard, I do actually want to encourage folks to comment and put in maybe what was their favorite session, service, or feature release for reInvent, and including around optimization, because there was a number of them that I took note. And I did a specific week-long thing of choose your own adventure around cost optimization sessions that was
Mm,
probably double from previous years. I have to agree with you that I think this reInvent, as most people were always anticipating AWS to release hundreds of new features and
mm.
services around it, they improved on a number of services and features. And while they didn't get up there on the number of features and wow factor that most people thought, I think the ones that they did were a huge improvement and they provided a lot of value, including
Yeah.
cleaning up or integrating existing services features with each other.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I mean the number of actual categories was, phenomenally huge, and it kind of went from analytics all the way to HPC and AI and ML and management tools, dev tools, even games was in there as well. So lots of stuff, that was interesting. This I don't think this was necessarily mentioned specifically at reInvent. It may have been, but I certainly picked up on it on LinkedIn. Somebody was talking about Avatar 2 actually was all rendered in AWS by Weta FX, I think is the company. So that was interesting to hear about that. And again, that I think kind of re-impacts the point around sort of HPC and kind of specialist workloads, being done in public cloud as well, and specifically really AWS with their sort of compute environments and their their solutions in that space, certainly kind of lending themselves to that type of stuff. But yeah, Avatar 2, not sure about the film itself, but again, if people want to want to give us their impression, a short review maybe in the comment section, that would be fine. I think we'll accept that of Avatar 2. That was apparently all rendered by Weta FX as the company, all done in AWS apparently.
Okay, we're not doing Rotten Tomatoes here on the comments and questions, but it
No,
is curious to know what your thoughts were on it. Was it released yet? I thought it was coming.
yes, yeah, no,
Did I
it's
miss it?
out. It's out.
Oh, it's out where you're at. I don't know if it's out where I'm at yet, but the release cycle for it. Actually, that's interesting and good to know that Avatar 2 was done with AWS.
Mm,
Now, everybody, some of the other things I want to mention is, obviously we have some cool gifts and prizes happening, but the guest speakers have a lot of value and insights into what was released or what they interpreted on their release at reInvent. Before I bring Giddy on and introduce him, Richard, what was one of your favorite releases or features at reInvent?
the I think the one I'm trying to remember the exact name, but there was one where it was focusing on. Oh yes, it was in the DevTools section, and it was the application composer. And I think it's only preview. It was only done as a preview, but it's kind of a drag
I
and
got my
drop.
cheat sheet here.
There you go. So it's like a
So,
drag and drop easy way to
yes,
build
I think that was in
serverless
the
apps.
DevOps.
Yes, it's in the
Yeah, I think that was.
development tools section. So it's
Yeah, that was in
apparently
the. That was
a
in.
yeah, it's a, just kind of a simplified and accelerated way to architect and build serverless apps, which is quite cool. And it's kind of a more of a, I think they called it quote unquote a visual canvas.
Yes, yes, exactly. I kind of like that feature. There. Okay, so Richard, stick around. Now it's time to get Giddy on the show. We're going to kick things off with magic, and then we're going to
Mm.
introduce our first guest.